Good afternoon, everyone. It's Proctor here, and today we're driving my very rusty but trusty 2001 Mercedes E320 4MATIC. And today we're going to talk about how is it driving it long term? Like, does it break down like the stereotypes say? You buy this car, you bought an oversized money pit. And I'm going to talk about that today. So I'm going to talk to you guys about one thing first. If you are not a do-it-yourself person, do not buy this car. So if you bring this car into any European shop, you're probably getting charged $200 for an oil change, probably $600 or $700 for front pads and rotors installed. Not to mention a bunch of other things that do go wrong with them, such as ignition issues like coil packs or spark plugs, and it has 12 of them. So that gets a little bit pricey after a while if you don't know how to do stuff yourself. So if you can't turn a wrench, do not buy a Mercedes. I'll put it plain and simple, unless you have like a good European mechanic or something. Now, driving this car every day is honestly a true bliss. I got this car a few years back, and it had about 185,000 kilometers on it, which was already kind of high, but I paid $1,000 for the car, which wasn't much at all, to be honest. And it had a lot of issues when I bought the car. So, driving it, it's wonderful, no issues there at all. Never had an issue driving it, except for like the occasional little thing that happened to it. But do-it-yourself type things, you know, it saves you a lot of money on these cars. The oil changes at cost will probably run you about 60 to 70 bucks using 8.2 liters of full synthetic oil and a Hengst oil filter. I don't like the paper filters, I like the fleece one, it's just a me thing. The whole list of everything I've had to replace since I got this car has only totaled me about $2,400 in change in almost 200,000 kilometers of driving, which is just phenomenal. That's like less than driving a new Honda Civic, to be quite honest. So since I got the car, in just under 200K of driving, I've done rear pads and rotors, I serviced the front brakes, I did 2 rear calipers, I did 4 tires, I did, I did the hood latch, all 3 of them, and the hood cable assembly because it seized one day and I was driving on the highway and the hood almost came through my windshield, so I did that. I did 2 coil packs, I did 12 spark plugs, and they're about $108 for 12 spark plugs for this thing. And it's about 60 bucks for an aftermarket coil pack each, so it's not that much. Let me see here. There really hasn't been many things that have broken down in recent years on this thing. Like, it did have a huge exhaust leak before on the left side. There's 2 exhausts that run perpendicular to each other, and I had to replace the left side because something broke. I think a weld broke or something. So I did that. No issues there. So I would highly recommend buying one of these cars for a long-term driving car as long as you can fix it yourself. Or if you have a good European mechanic or something that doesn't charge you up the ass like the dealerships, to be quite honest. Because when I brought this car into the dealership for like a general inspection, when I got the car, they said, yeah, it's going to cost you about $5,300 to bring this car up to standards. And I was like, what do you mean $5,300? And long story short, I got that whole list of all the shit that they said it needed to have fixed, and I went to my shop and I replaced it all for just under $700. So it's all about who you know, to be quite honest. But yeah, beautiful driving car, silky smooth, it gets great gas mileage. When I'm in the city, I get about 13-ish liters per 100 kilometers, which is bad for probably a 4,000-pound car. And on the highway, I get about 9.5 to 10 liters per 100K, which is phenomenal. That's like better than some of the new cars. So, and hey, the best part about it is no car payments. So this kind of proves that you buy a cheap car on the internet, and my dad once said there's nothing more expensive than a cheap Mercedes. I'm not gonna lie, that kind of blew my mind because this car has been pretty cheap to drive for a cheap Mercedes. I only paid $1,000 for this car. That was 185K, and now I've got 344,489. So what a wonderful car. It does have little things like the trunk electrics don't work. The trunk vacuum lines are kind of buggered, so I zip tied tricked it behind the license plate so you open it with a zip tie. That's not a big thing. Hasn't affected me at all. I know sooner or later I'm going to have to do the gasket around the fuel level setting unit. $20. But But that's really it. This could be a really reliable car to drive long term if you take care of it. Like, I know it's not going to be a cheap Japanese car, but don't you like to be driving in a stylish Mercedes for the price of driving like a Honda, a Mazda, or a Fiat or something? And I actually do have a Mazda, but I like that car, but that's just a different story. I would highly recommend this car if you do the work yourself. You will not have an issue with it. That's very, very, very major. They do have rust issues on these older ones. I'm going to take it into the body shop soon to get that fixed. You know, it's got almost 350,000 on it. But no, you'll love driving this car. It's magnificent, to be quite honest. Oh, that was the other thing I replaced, was the vacuum pump module compressor thing under the back seat. I replaced that too. Until my power locks stopped working one day. But yeah, I can't think of enough ways to praise this car, to be quite honest. It's just a super nice driving car on a budget. You look like you're $1 million on a budget. Yeah. As you can see, like, it's driving no problem. A couple little things here and there, like my windshield is cracked and everything, but it's at the bottom, I can see nothing's wrong there. Yeah. Can't praise this car enough. Just enjoying the drive, to be honest. Nothing drives like a Mercedes. Especially an old one. They have less electronics, to be quite honest, and they just float down the road. You can actually feel the steering instead of that electronic type feeling you get sometimes. So yeah, I hope you guys, if you know how to turn a wrench, you buy one of these cars, because it is a sweetheart to drive around. It truly is. Nothing drives like one. And now I'm home. And speaking of owning a Mazda, there is my Mazda. Oh, can't see because I turn hard. But... and there's my Honda, and my Mazda is just over there. And I hope you guys have a wonderful night. And I'm going to go and order some parts for this thing online for cheap cost.